Writing notes and messages is a really useful skill to have, whether you want to leave a message for a friend or a family member, or even send an email. Now, there's an exercise on page 125 of the Read Write Now workbook if you want to practice. And to get your copy, all you have to do is call 1-800 20 20 65. And the lines are open now.
Ian was talking to us earlier about short-term and long-term memory and how we decide where to store facts. In a way, our brain works a little like these computers. There is a limit to the amount of information they can keep, so we need to decide what to remember and what to forget.
Kevin and Eamon here behind me use computers to control 10 different power stations around Ireland, and one of those screens controls the power station at Ardnacrusha.
I'm going to let you into a secret. I'm 52. But my memory is a lot worse than it was when I was 32. It's an inevitable part of getting older. But I'm probably better at keeping track of all this information than I was when I was 32. How come if my memory is worse? The answer is simple. Only try to remember what's really important, and know where to find out the things that you can't keep in your memory. Without my phone, I'd be lost. It has a reminder that bleeps to tell me when I'm supposed to do something and what it is. Without my diary, I'd also be lost. I don't try to remember who I'm meeting when, I use a diary. Sandra, this week's learner strategy is to use a dictaphone to help her remember messages that she later writes down. But what does this mean about learning to read and write? The average person can remember a few thousand words, but we only tend to use a couple of hundred of the more common words. No one can ever learn all the words in English, so we have to learn to use things like dictionaries to help expand our memories.
Okay, bye-bye. It seems then that using phones, dictaphones, diaries and dictionaries can be a great help to you when you're trying to keep track of information.
Until recently, Sandra didn't think she'd be able to cope with being in the workforce, but she's found that with the right support and the proper strategies, she's more than capable of dealing with the modern workplace.
I wasn't planning to get a job, but as I started to get involved, you know, I just said I'd see how I got on in the literacy classes, and I got a lot of backup that, you know, I would be well able to get a job, and so I had a few things in mind. So, one was reception, one was working with people with disabilities. Oh, retail, I'd like to do retail as well. I work in the Carrick Cheshire Home in the Phoenix Park. It's a residential home for people with disabilities, and I'm working on the reception. It's a FOSS scheme. When I started, I was really terrified. I had a job coach with me, and he came with me for 3 weeks, Andrew. But I didn't want to let him go. Good afternoon, Carrick Cheshire. And I'm saying to the phone, please don't ring, because if you ring, you know. But it's grand. Hello. Danielle's not here at the moment. Can I take a message? Once I got over the initial shock that I wasn't going to have somebody with me, every day was grand. 8, 6, 8. They decided to get me a dictaphone because I was finding it a bit difficult to, if somebody rang up and they were leaving a message, I was finding it hard to remember some of the telephone numbers. Grand, thank you, bye. So they got the dictaphone. I can write it down then and then, just check. I write it down as well as somebody telling it to me, so I can just check that it's okay, then I know it's right. And then I can do it in my own time then, you know. Okay, thank you. I wouldn't have dreamed that I would be working If I hadn't done the literacy class, I wouldn't be working here now today.
For this week, the 30th of October.
Since I got a job, I'm more independent, I'm more self-esteem, I've met more people, yet I do feel the future's more brighter, you know. The only things I might be running into now is access, but I'll get around that. That doesn't bother me. It's just brilliant, I just can't stop.
Earlier in the programme, we looked at using prefixes and how they can help us recognise words and expand our vocabulary. This is an important part to improving your literacy skills. Another strategy for increasing your vocabulary is to get familiar with opposites.
Sandra talked about how she found her job difficult or hard at the beginning. The opposite of difficult is easy. When you're describing things, there's usually another word which has the opposite meaning. When you learn a new word, it's a good strategy to learn the opposite as well. That way, you'll find it easier to group and remember words. However, not every word has an opposite. Nearly all words that have an opposite are words that describe people, places and things. Let's look at some examples. Big, small. High, low. Hot, cold. Black, white. We saw earlier that by adding some prefixes to the beginning of a word, we can change the word into its opposite meaning. For example, adding the prefix un to happy makes the new word unhappy, which means sad, the opposite of happy. Thinking of opposites is a very useful way of helping you to increase your vocabulary. When you learn and start to use a new word, find out if it has an opposite and then learn that as well.
When it comes to remembering things that are important to you, try to relate new information to things you know already. Let's try one last exercise. Try to remember these letters. O, T, T, F, F, S, S, E, N, T. Can you remember them? No? Well, how about you relate it to something you know already? How about if these letters are the first letters of the numbers 1 to 10? So O is 1, T is 2, T is also 3, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Using this technique now, let's see if you can remember them. It was easier, wasn't it? That was because you were linking the new information to something you knew already.
Earlier in the programme, we found out about understanding and using prefixes. We also met Sandra and looked at practical strategies to help improve memory, such as writing notes and messages.
Prefixes are very common in English. Recognising common prefixes will help you to break down words into smaller pieces. Examples of prefixes include un at the beginning of unhappy, re at the start of rewrite, and miss in miss here. By understanding the meaning of the more common prefixes, you'll be able to improve your spelling and your range of vocabulary. This week we also looked at writing notes and messages. Remember to include your name, the name of the person to whom you're writing the note, the date, time and details. Writing notes and messages is something most of us do every day. There are no rules for writing them, except to think about who'll be reading them.
Ian went to Ardnacrusha in County Clare and he gave us a great insight into how to help our brains to remember lots of information. And he also explained that sometimes it's necessary to decide what to remember and what to keep track of elsewhere.
This week we saw how you don't have to remember everything if you use aids like diaries and phones. We saw how linking new information to what you know already makes learning easier. Your brain is a fantastic memory device, but you have to help it out using some memory strategies.
This week, we also saw how learning the opposites of words can be a very helpful strategy when you're trying to increase your vocabulary. As you learn new words, find out if there are other words that mean the opposite. If there are, then you should be able to group words together, and that makes it easier for your brain to remember them when they're needed.
Our learner Sandra told us why she went back to learning and how it's helped her in all aspects of her life.
I want to go forward now. The only thing I find I still have to kind of prove to myself that I can do things all the time.
Don't forget, you can practice everything we've covered in today's programme if you get yourself a copy of the Read Right Now workbook. It's all in there in Chapter 9. To get yourself a free copy, simply call 1-800 20 20 65 and the lines are open right now. Next week, we'll be meeting Moses in Dublin. Terry will be talking to us about study skills, and we'll have learning points on GH words and apostrophes, and we'll be looking at where our words come from. So until then, goodbye.